The foreign ministers of the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda are set to sign an agreement that could see an end to the conflict in eastern DRC. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio will witness the deal signing in Washington, D.C. on Friday. In a joint statement, the three countries said the agreement will honor territorial integrity and a prohibition of hostilities through a provision for disarmament of all non-state armed groups. The deal signing follows mediation efforts held in Qatar in March, in which Congolese negotiators dropped a demand that Rwandan troops immediately leave eastern DRC. But the move has come under scrutiny, with critics calling it opaque and an unjust reward for Rwanda. DRC has for long blamed Rwanda for supporting M23 rebels, claims Kigali has denied. The foreign ministers will also meet President Donald Trump at the Oval Office after the deal signing. Well, let's bring in Chris Ochamringa joining us there from Kinshasa. Chris, Congolese negotiators have dropped a demand that Rwandan troops immediately leave Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. What can you tell us about this?
Well, Beatrice, that demand for the immediate withdrawal of Rwandan troops before the signing ceremony, the signing happens, has been circulating on social media and some international networks. But when I spoke to a Congolese official, he said it did not come from official channels, says it was probably some civil society members who are very keen to see the withdrawal of Rwandan soldiers from Congolese territory in line with the United Nations Security Council resolution that was made last year. And this has also been a key demand that the DRC government had been making in another peace initiative known as the Luanda process that was brokered by the Angolan government. But under this US brokered peace deal, the DRC government has agreed that, they have to first sign, and then those are issues that they have agreed to with Rwanda will be implemented later. So the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Therese Kaikwamba Wagner, is already in Washington, D.C., and people here are very keenly watching to see whether this peace deal will bring about lasting peace in east of the DRC. Beatrice?
Well, Chris, the elusive peace deal is expected to be signed in Washington later on Friday. What do we know of this deal, and why is the U.S. involved?
So the U.S. got involved in this deal because the DRC president, Felix Tshisekedi, invited the United States government to come here and invest in the mining sector in the east of the DRC in exchange for military support. That deal, known as the Minerals for Security deal, was accepted by the United States government. President Donald Trump sent his senior advisor to Africa, Mr. Masad Bolos, who came here, held a number of talks with the president and other senior officials, and they said they are going to push this peace initiative, which came to be known as the Declaration of Principles. So the United States took over what the members of the East African community and the Southern African Development Community had been trying to carry out to ensure that peace is restored in Eastern DRC. Now, under this deal, what we have learned is that the two countries, Rwanda and the DRC, are called to cease fighting. They're supposed to disengage their troops, disarm them. They're also supposed to respect each other's territorial integrity. And there's also a provision for the conditional integration of non-state armed groups in the DRC army. That's something that many people in the DRC do not want to happen, specifically relating to the M23 rebels. They do not want them to be integrated in the Congolese army, and we're waiting to see how that will play out. And so there's also an issue of the economic cooperation between the two countries. United States, private firms from the United States are supposed to invest in that part of Eastern DRC for the mutual benefit of Rwanda and the DRC, so that the two countries can stop fighting and start trading. That is what this deal is about, Beatrice. But there are some people in Congo who are very skeptical. They say that the United States is a country that is always looking out for its interests, and they're saying these interests is the minerals in Eastern DRC. They do not believe that the United States is really keen on ensuring that peace is restored, especially for the benefit of the Congolese people.
Right, let me rope in Ethan Tashobius joining us from Kigali on the phone. Ethan, so what has been Kigali's reaction to Kinshasa's earlier demand for Rwandan troops to immediately leave Eastern DRC?
Beatrice, the latest information we've heard is that, especially from the Rwanda's Foreign Affairs Minister, Rwanda was quite not happy, or rather disappointed with some of the information that sort of leaked in the media regarding Rwanda's requests and what actually DRC was requesting for the deal to be signed. And one of the things that actually the Foreign Affairs Minister commented about was the withdrawal of Rwandan troops from the DRC territory. And Minister Nduhungirehe said clearly on his ex-handle that that was not one of the demands, but rather seeing at how Rwanda's concerns, especially the reintegration of FDR, the elements that some of them are accused of committing the genocide here in Rwanda, being working hand in hand with alongside the DRC forces. They're saying that the deal may not be signed until some of confidential information is kept as such. But if some of the information that is discussed behind the closed doors goes into the media when Rwanda is not aware, may delay or rather impact in a negative way the signing of the deal in itself. But Rwanda continues to remain optimistic that the deal may come through if the grievances and the concerns that have been put forward in the recent past are addressed ahead of the signing in itself.
So, Ethan, what is Kigali expecting out of this deal, this peace deal, and what has been the reaction in Rwanda about the deal?
First of all, is the ceasefire and the hate speech that has been aimed towards Rwanda and the Rwandan government and the Rwandan officials, if that can actually slow down, but also addressing once and for all the FDR issue in Eastern DRC that has over the years threatened Rwanda's security, causing incursions in some parts of the western Rwanda and the southern part of Rwanda. Those are some of the key issues that Rwanda is looking at. The issue of the FDR, the arming them and sending back them to Rwanda, but also the DRC government once and for all ending the collaboration with the alleged collaboration with the FDR elements, and that's the key element that Rwanda is looking at in this deal with the DRC. And later on, if that is done, of course, the trade deal will be looked into between the DRC and Rwanda, and of course the mediator, in this case, the United States.
All right, Ethan Tashobia joining us there from Kigali, and Chris Ochamringa in Kinshasa. To you both, thank you. Well, let's now broaden this discussion a little bit more. And Novatas Igosha, an international relations expert and advocate of the High Court of Tanzania, is joining us to discuss this deal further. Novatas, so what are your thoughts on this peace deal?
Thank you very much. Number one, it's a pragmatic approach towards a very peaceful Congo, because it has always been in conflict for over 5 decades. Therefore, it's a teeter of history towards the authority of the Congo having a sustainable government and authority towards the eastern part, because this time it's not only regional institutions like the East African Community or SADC or the larger African Union, but you are having the United States as the peace broker, an American power, the way it wields its influence in the United Nations by veto vote, but by other financial institutions like the World Bank. I believe there could be a possibility after they signed the so-called Declaration of Principles by April 2025. But how much is that going to be possible? It really depends on the systemic decisions on the ground between the Congolese, especially the Congolese government, towards demilitarization and, of course, trying to de-escalate other tensions by understanding what is at stake.
So you've made reference to the involvement of the United States here. Why do you think the U.S. is keen on this deal? And while it is a welcome gesture in ending the war, isn't it also about resource exploitation?
Absolutely. I do believe, number one, every country has its own interests, and the Americans' participation here comes with the changing tides of global economic influence, especially the influence of the People's Republic of China, which controls about 60% of global rare earth minerals and supply chains compared to American 13%. So America is not only coming in as a peace broker, but it needs leverage and concessions that would welcome American investments in these rare earth minerals in the Eastern DRC. However, I do believe despite Washington's influence, it also needs to balance both sides of the aisle by checking what American companies have been doing there for over decades. So America is also coming in not only as a peace broker, but to check its own economic interest and to balance global influence, especially Chinese influence in Africa, especially in these rare earth minerals. So it's a win-win situation on the diplomacy level, but also on the economic level.